Today's video is a quick video, and it's kind of a continuation of my previous video, just talking about how right now in my life I feel like I'm being pushed in certain directions, and I don't know, a different way to frame it is that God is opening a lot of doors in ways that I wouldn't have seen, or no way to anticipate this kind of thing. And last night that got me thinking about this verse that used to mystify me, but I think it more or less makes sense to me now, and especially in this context. So I'll read this verse, talk about it, talk about one other small thing just because it's been on my mind recently. Try to keep the video short. I could ramble, but John chapter 3, verse 8. The wind bloweth where it listeth, and thou hearest the sound thereof, but canst not tell whence it cometh and whither it goeth. So is every one that is born of the Spirit. And yeah, at first this might seem really confusing, or at least the way that I used to interpret it was just that there's this mysterious aspect to it. But really, is the wind that mysterious? I mean, we know some stuff about the wind. So just the things that I was thinking about, right? Wind just, it doesn't choose. Wind doesn't say, hey, I'm going to go blow in the westward direction at this strength. Wind is something that just happens based off of the way things are. God made earth, God made everything, including physics, and wind just naturally happens when you have a high pressure system next to a low pressure system. It's the environment. Just the environment existing the way it does, wind is a result of that. And another thing about wind that we know, that because this used to just be like, oh, if you're a spiritual person, stuff is mysterious. I don't know. I don't feel like it's that mysterious anymore. Another thing about wind, right? It's, you have a high pressure system, a low pressure system. Wind is about bringing equilibrium. And there's also this idea of the path of least resistance, that wind is taking an unbalanced system where you have a high pressure system next to a low pressure system, and it's using a path of least resistance to bring about equilibrium. And in that way, it makes much more sense to me that somebody who's born of the Spirit, God is going to influence you to do things, but not in a way like the wind doesn't get to choose, hey, I'm going to blow in this direction at this strength. It just naturally occurs as a result of the way things are, of reality. And in that way, I mean, this just goes with my last video where I said that I feel like God is really telling me that I need to put my effort into this other area of life. And that's like the wind turning on, when now it's like my YouTube channel and stuff became like this high pressure system, and then there was this low pressure system somewhere else, and then I started moving in that direction just because that's the way that reality was. And I mean, you could also interpret this of people that aren't born of the Spirit, are the kind of people that fight that thing, where it's like everything in your life is screaming at you to go to do this thing, and you're either too scared, or you have all these built up ideas in your mind, and like people that seem very against going with the flow, for lack of a better word. And I'm not here to judge that type of person or anything, and not saying that if you're not a go with the flow person, that you can't be saved or anything like that. But just a mark of, I mean, this does say everyone that is born of the Spirit is in this way. So maybe it's just that's the best, that's what our nature should be. And maybe some people, that's their struggle, I guess, to become more open to that sort of thing. Anyways, this is just something that I relate to a lot. And there's this like one memory in my mind that I think of a lot. And a really interesting little detail of this is that I don't remember the exact words I used. It was in high school about time, maybe I was in college, I don't know. And this aunt of mine, who, kind of interesting, I don't talk a lot with them, but I feel kind of a stronger connection with this aunt of mine than a lot of my other family members. So it's interesting that this memory is connected with them in a way. But they asked me, what do you want to be when you grow up? Type questions, which is kind of stupid to ask young kids. And that even you could talk about that in this, how the world tries to do the opposite of this. Like, you're just a child and you're supposed to know what you're doing for your life, like what you're going to be doing 10 years in the future, 20 years in the future. That's crazy. And but think of, that's what the world expects of you and puts pressure on you. You're just this high schooler, and yet you're supposed to have this far out goal and go and build all these steps to get there, and then you're a failure if you don't get there. That goes completely against the spirit of this verse, for instance, where you may not know where tomorrow takes you, and you're not a failure if you're going with the flow that life gives you. You're one born of the Spirit. And so this thought, to get back to the memory, it annoys me. It annoys me so much that I don't remember the words, because the words were perfect, but I can't remember them. I had a really good answer for what I wanted to be in life, and more or less my answer was that I just wanted to be a dad. But that wasn't it. I can't remember the exact words I used, but that was more or less the idea of what I wanted to say. That, I just want to be a dad and be a person. Like, I didn't used to know, like, one part of what I've been doing recently is, like, investigating my neurodiversity and just admitting how ADD and spazzed out I am a lot of times. And, but part of that, the reason that that's relevant is part of me has always known that I wasn't made to do like a 9-to-5 job. I've always known that doesn't work with me. Like, I physically, mentally, I can't handle that. Maybe something to do with my neurodiversity. I don't know. Maybe I've just always known that's not for me. But that's why my answer was just, I don't know. I want to just be a dad. And because when I thought of my future, it wasn't about working or what my job was at all. And what do you know? I had a career. I went to school. I had a career based off of what my school was. But nope, I ended up quitting just to be a dad. And I wasn't a Christian back then. And I ended up finding Jesus. And now just a totally different trajectory for my life completely. I still, well, see, that's actually changing. I've talked about how things are changing, and I quit my job. I got this whole YouTube channel, had all sorts of revelations and finding out about conspiracy and all that. But now I'm kind of bringing it back, and I'm actually have a new job and stuff like that. And it's just interesting where life takes you. You can't plan this stuff. You can't plan this stuff out in advance in the same way that the wind doesn't decide to do something. It just happens. And it's kind of interesting how Satan always tries to corrupt all these things. Like, weather manipulation is inherently satanic because it goes against this natural order. You have satanic people that, hey, I want the wind to blow in this direction, and then they go out and do it. So that's just another little interesting tidbit. I think that's mostly it. Yeah, my last video kind of goes over this idea of how I've just been trying to listen to those messages being sent to me, and that's the best words that we have for it. But I always want to stop and say, no, God does not speak to you in your ear and say, hey, go do this. Maybe in the past it used to work a little bit more like that, but the magic was way thicker in the ether. People had these temples and we're so beyond that. God doesn't communicate to us like that anymore, but you'll be sent messages. You'll feel it. You'll have feelings. You have discernment. Things in your life will be playing out in a certain way. Not all positive. A lot of it can seem really stressful in the moment, but it's about giving up. It really is about, maybe it's easy for me because I get so overwhelmed that I've always had this background. I feel really blessed for this because I know a lot of people don't have this, but even when I was young, I had this background understanding and feeling of everything is going to work out. No matter it, everything will work out in the end. And having that really does help to be able to just let go and be taken like the wind wherever you're going. And this actually has a lot of applications. Like I start thinking of, well, how come, what did Jesus have against rich people? Like, if you're rich, clearly God is blessing you in one way, but like, think about when Jesus told the rich person, well, go get rid of all your riches. It's because those types of things tie you down. If you have all sorts of wealth and you're not easily blown around like the wind, if your world is 100% established, your life is easy, no, there's not that, because a lot of times, unfortunately, the things that draw us from point A to point B in life are struggle and hardships and not the most pleasant things. So I just had that kind of tangential, hey, probably the reason why it's not great to be super rich is because you're not as open to be blown around like the wind. God uses his people in ways that are bigger than us, in ways bigger than we can decide for ourselves. And that also was applied here, because if we think that we can do it all our own, that it's not going to work out, and not as much will be accomplished for God. God can use us in ways that are beyond our comprehension. And it's not, if you want your greatest destiny, you have to let go. I think that's part of this too. Well, that's a lot. Another thing that I've been thinking of is relevant with this. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. I've just been running into some of these. I've watched this guy before. There's a lot of interesting ancient wisdom, and it's so interesting how often you'll find these universal truths, and it's always in the Bible. If there's ever these universal truths that many groups of people can come upon, it's always going to be a part of the Bible. And so it's interesting that, we got these native people, and a lot of times they'll say things that people are like, ooh, oh, that's so deep. But hey, that stuff is right in the Bible. And it's very interesting to me. A huge amount of native people are Christian. And I think it's because they realize that connection between, hey, all of those ancient teachings that our elders were telling us, they realize that there's wisdom to that, and then they see the connection to the wisdoms of the Bible, how it's so related. And I'll just end with a quick story. So like I said, I've been blown about by the wind. My life has taken me in certain directions, and with that oftentimes does come a lot of stress. And it's really interesting because this week's been super busy for me. This past week's been super busy for me. I've been super stressed out about getting ready for this new year. Of course, the new year's not beginning, but it's a new school year. So any of us with children or that work in education, it's a very stressful time. And it does go along with this, the idea of being like the wind, being on your path. When you're trying to get close with God, when things are really moving, that's when Satan strikes and puts roadblocks in your way. And I just think it's really interesting because, right now has been really stressful and trying to get stuff going on. Thankfully, I've been highly prepared though. I know that personally I need to prepare stuff ahead of time. Being ready is so helpful. Have your oil lamp full. Don't get caught off guard because stuff's going to happen. So this last week, to get to the point, it's been stressful. I've been trying to get stuff ready, but it could have been so much worse if I wasn't prepared. So that's another, I didn't even think I was going to talk about preparedness in this, but super important to be prepared. I think that's the only reason that I feel good today, and that things weren't crazy, because Satan has been putting some roadblocks. And sometimes it's as simple as you say to yourself that you want to go pray, you go pray, and boom, as you go and start praying, all these distractions start popping up. Your phone rings, weird, strange noises start happening in the background. Have you guys seen that happen? And so look at this. Recently, I got home from a trip and we had this in our house. You guys, how funny is that? Like, I'm trying to make my video and a distraction just came. Okay, back to the point. I just went on a trip and came back, and it was already annoying to me to go take this trip right before school is about to start again, so that was stressful. And a scorpion. We took a trip to Eastern Oregon, and a scorpion came back inside of our stuff. What an ominous symbol and strange occurrence. We've gone out there before. I've never even seen a scorpion visiting family out there. But one night, a day after we got back. So we actually, it's kind of crazy. We drove back, unpacked all of our stuff. My wife even like sorted through laundry, and it was the next day my wife saw this scorpion sitting on top of the laundry. So this scorpion came all the way back with us. We never saw it. Thank God we were protected and nobody ended up getting stung with it. But so strange. And the scorpion somehow made it through all of this without being seen and then just perched itself on the very top. Like it wanted to be seen. And that was just really strange to me that this happened like right during this very stressful time. And it reminded me of this idea of the evil one doing things like that to try to screw with you. And another one, just this right when we got back to, one of our toilets started being totally backed up, and that can actually be like really stressful. But thankfully, it all was okay. I squashed the scorpion. We got to do a little science experiment and look at the scorpion under some UV light. So everything worked out in the end, but it was just so ominous that we get back. I thankfully, again, was super prepared. I've been so prepared. So even with a broken toilet out of nowhere and having to deal with that, which it ended up being not a big deal, but still, you know, it's those little things, those little stumbling blocks that Satan puts in your way when you're most vulnerable. But being prepared was super helpful. And yes, knowing that everything is going to be okay in the end is always good to have on my mind. And we are protected. Guardian angels are a real thing. We traveled all the way back with a scorpion in the car, and my wife was touching all of the clothes, and she never got stung. But this scorpion presented itself like I don't know, trying to scare us. And this really is how Satan works. Satan can work in ways like that. Like the logistics of it are really interesting. In heaven, maybe we'll be able to ask questions like that. Like, did Satan literally try to influence this scorpion to get inside of our stuff? And then was there this like cosmic battle between guardian angels making sure that the scorpion's not stinging us and Satan like trying to get it in our business? It's really interesting to think of stuff like that. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. God bless everyone.